What's going on, guys? Justin here from JT Sports Cards, here with a brand new segments for the channel here. I'm very excited to debut this segment that's called Fantasy Football Flipping. So as you guys, if you've watched some of my football break videos in the past, you guys know that I comment a lot on the fantasy value of players. And I've played fantasy football for over 10 years. I'm extremely into it. I love fantasy football. It's one of my favorite activities every year. And yeah, it's something that I keep tabs on really throughout the year and preparing for the draft and everything like that. So, and I'm very obviously like cards and getting back into that. And so I wanted to do something that combined the two interests because I think that I kind of have some knowledge in both areas. So basically, my idea for this segment is to buy cards, hopefully every week to every 2 weeks. In the off season, I'll be buying cards of players that I think are kind of sleepers or undervalued, and just guys I think that might break through during the season. And then during the season, I'll buy guys that I think are maybe good buy low candidates, guys that you could trade for. Maybe they're not doing so well at the moment, or just kind of waiver wire pickups that you can use as well. So this segment, it's not to replace breaks. So I will continue to be buying, hobby and retail products to break for the channel. So that's not going away, but I just thought that this would be something interesting to do to kind of bring in maybe some guys that aren't as into football cards, but are more into the fantasy side. And then also the others. If there's football card collectors out there that are kind of wanting to get into fantasy, hopefully this will be informational for you as well. So yeah. And also with fantasy football, if you guys have ever played it, you kind of have to take a long-term approach with fantasy football. But honestly, a lot of fantasy is week to week, right? So you have to make moves sometimes, like adding a guy off the waiver wire to win that week. So that's the approach I'm taking to this segment. So the cards that I buy, they're not intended for me to invest long-term in these guys. My plan for each card that I buy is to sell them during the season. So after a player has a big fantasy performance, I'll relist it on eBay and see if I can make a profit off of it. And I want to be very transparent with that. So I'll let you guys know once I sell something, what I sold it for, what I bought it for. Even if I lose money, I'll let you guys know. So yeah, other than that, the format of these videos, the first part I'm going to spend kind of talking about the card itself, why I bought that particular card, the product. So kind of for guys that are wanting to get more into cards. And then the second half of the segment will be more focused on the player and his fantasy performance, kind of what I think about that going forward. So yeah, I'm super excited for this. I hope you guys will enjoy this. And yeah, other than that, let's get into episode number 1 here. All right, got some good packaging here. As you guys, I'm sure, saw in the title, episode number 1 is Mr. David Montgomery for the Chicago Bears. Let me get this open here. Yeah, very well protected. Looks like someone's been breaking some legacy as well. Go ahead and check out the legacy break that I did last week on the channel. We pulled a big 101 of a PC guy. So yeah, it was a good break, I must say. There's some other things as well. So oh, they even got a rookie in there. All right. Anyways, card itself, we got a David Montgomery rookie card. This is from 2019 Select. This is the tie-dye parallel, and it is numbered 17 of 25. So in terms of the product itself, you guys will probably hear me say this multiple times during this segment. To me, there's so many products out there, and people get kind of confused if you're new to the hobby, what products are worth buying. And to me, I think there's 4 big products, and this applies to both football and basketball. It's a little different, but I kind of will just simplify it and say, for me, there's 4 big products: Optic, Contenders, Prism, as well as Select. I think those are the 4 products that are most sought after. They have the most resale value. And honestly, they're pretty affordable. All of those have retail formats except for Select. So it's available for most people. You know, you have like products like National Treasures, you know, Impeccable. Like these are just insanely expensive products that most people, including myself, can't afford these products. So I'm not going to be buying those types of products. But something like this is a card that I can go in and afford. So yeah, also this is a rookie card. So for those that are new to cards itself, the rookie cards are going to be the most valuable. If it's a big name player like a Tom Brady, LeBron James, then really any card sells well. But for the most part, the most valuable cards are going to be the rookie cards. So if you're investing in a guy to flip, you're going to want to be looking at those. And then the last thing that makes this product, or why I kind of bought this card, is the uniqueness of it. So in cards, there's a term called short prints. So that's a card that is serial numbered, that there's only a limited number of supply and copies of that card. So this card I already showed you in the beginning is numbered to 25. So there's only 25 of these tie-dye Select parallels. To me, and there's different definitions of this, a short print for me, I would consider anything less than 100 is going to be short print. And then I would say a super short print would be anything like 25 and less. So I would consider this to be a super short print card. So it's very rare, right? Only 25 copies. So especially guys that are building sets, the tie-dye parallel like this, it's not going to be hitting the eBay market every day, right? There's only 25 copies. And people get very into set collecting, in which they will kind of overpay for a card if they just don't feel like that card's going to hit the market often. So yeah, so I think this card, it's a good product. It's unique. I love the tie-dye look. It catches the eye, and it's short print. So this to me is a very good investment of David Montgomery in terms of the card itself. Now into David Montgomery, the fantasy player. When it comes to fantasy, it's different from cards and fantasy. So in cards, the quarterbacks are key, right? You want to buy into quarterbacks because they're going to be the most profitable players. But in fantasy, it's kind of different. So obviously guys like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes are still sought after in fantasy, but the difference is that with the way that scoring is set up, the difference between quarterback number 1 and quarterback 10 in fantasy, it's not as big as the difference between running back 1 and running back 10. So the most highly sought after guys for fantasy are going to be kind of the top running backs like Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. And that's because there's not that many running backs you can call bell cows anymore in the NFL. There's so many committees now where there's multiple running backs on a team that will get carries. Some guys will just kind of play the hot hands. Like Bill Belichick and the Patriots are very well known for that. And there's just a lot more passing in the NFL now, and just rushing attempts are kind of down overall. But if you look at a guy like David Montgomery, he's one of the only guys in the NFL right now that really is going to command his backfield. So last year, he had 242 rushing attempts, averaging 15 a game. And if you look at all the rushing attempts on the team, he had 61% of the carries. And look at the RB2. So who's behind David Montgomery? It's Tariq Cohen, who is a very small guy, explosive, but he's known as more of a pass-catching running back. So, I mean, Cohen got 4 carries a game on average last year. So, and I think Montgomery could have an even higher running target share this year compared to last year. Also, coach of the Bears, Matt Nagy, he's always relied on one running back his entire career. So I just don't see Cohen eating in too much to Montgomery's workload. So that's a big part of why I'm high on Montgomery, is that he's gonna command the lion's share of the targets in that team. And kind of going along with that, another thing you want to look at in running backs is, if you're going to draft the guy high, is he going to get the team's goal line carries? Because in fantasy, the best play that you can get is a touchdown, because a touchdown is 6 points, and then you get whatever yardage. And if it's like a PPR league where you get points per reception, you could get a point additionally if it was a catch. So going along with those lines, I mean, again, Cohen is a very small guy. He's not going to get carries in the red zone. It's going to go to David Montgomery if the Bears are going to be running the ball. Quarterback-wise, Trubisky had 2 rushing touchdowns last year. He's a big guy, but Trubisky's not someone like a Josh Allen like a Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton, a guy that's going to steal a lot of rushing touchdowns from their running backs. And if you think Nick Foles is going to be the quarterback, he's had 1 rushing touchdown since 2014. So that alone makes Montgomery a lot more valuable than he otherwise would be. And kind of the last part that makes me, why I think Montgomery could be a good buy is I just think the Bears are going to be a better team in general this year. The offense was very bad last year. Trubisky had a very rough year, so teams were just packing in the box because they didn't respect the passing game. Bringing in Nick Foles, and Nick Foles, maybe he doesn't win the job. If he doesn't win the job, then that's going to be because Trubisky improved a lot in the offseason. I don't think that's going to be the case, but it's possible. But I just think Nick Foles, man, especially with a guy like Allen Robinson, who's a very talented wide receiver, I just think that passing game is going to open up so much more this year. And in doing so, you're going to allow David Montgomery to have more running lanes. So, I just think the Bears are going to be a better team. I think Montgomery, year 2, you're going to see improvement. So I'm really high on Montgomery. In a lot of fantasy, when it comes to drafting guys, it's just what's the price, right? So if you look at where he's being drafted right now, so according to FantasyPros.com, he's being drafted on average at pick number 51, which puts him at running back 27, which, I think that's just ridiculously low for a guy that's going to get the workload that he's going to. If you look at the guys that are being drafted ahead of him, so that 23 to 26 range, you're looking at Raheem Mostert, Mark Ingram, Cam Akers, who I'm high on this year, and DeAndre Swift. Those guys are just not going to get the running attempts that Montgomery's going to get. So I think Montgomery's a steal at running back 27. If you can get Montgomery as an RB2, I would feel good as long as you have a pretty solid RB1. And if he's your 3rd running back on your team, I'm all for that this year. All for that. I think, and I'll point out negatives as well. 2 negative points potentially. He wasn't involved too much in the passing game last year. He only had 25 catches, but I think that could go up this year because he definitely caught passes at Iowa State. So I think that could go up. The other negative in terms of more the card market is that the Bears, I'm not convinced that they're going to be that good. I think they can improve, especially if Foles wins the job. But do I think the Bears are going to be a playoff team this year? No, I think the Vikings are still the favorite in the North. I think the Packers, man. Aaron Rodgers, after they drafted Jordan Love, you could definitely see Rodgers just going off this year. So I don't think the Bears are a playoff team. So that does kind of cut into a little bit of the success that Montgomery might have. In terms of his card value. But all in all, I'm very high on David Montgomery this year. I think he's a steal, especially where he's going this year. So that's the episode, episode 1. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Future episodes, I'll keep it a little bit shorter, right? I won't explain the concept as much. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think about this new segment. Leave a like, subscribe. Stay tuned for more episodes, more breaks as well. And let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about David Montgomery as a player this year for fantasy? So other than that, we'll catch you next time. Peace.